Welcome back, everyone, to the Living the Dream podcast. I am your host, Matt.scoletti, and we're talking about worry today and eliminating worry now. I think this is going to be a huge one, and I hope you get a lot of great takeaways from this. If you're sitting down or you have your phone on you, you may want to get it ready to take some notes because there's going to be some major keys that I think can help you and me and anyone else with eliminating worry in our lives. And I think when you eliminate worry, it just adds more room to have fun and enjoy life and put a smile on your face. And I'm going to share some information with you that I hope will have a big impact. And the first question is, do you ever worry? And kind of rhetorical question. I know that I worry. I consider myself to be a happy person, but definitely worry and probably worry too often. I think everybody can always try to worry less than we do. And I want you to think about for a second, what do you worry about? When you worry, just go through your mind, like what's the last thing you worried about? What's something that you consistently worry about? And I just want you to keep those in the back of your mind, because when I go through this and ask you a few questions, we'll see if that'll help trigger a solution to eliminate some of that worry. I believe this episode will 1000% reframe your whole philosophy on worrying, or so that is my hope. I'm aiming high, and I'm hoping this can help, because it's a strategy that I've been taught over the years, and I've taught myself, and it's worked wonders. Let's paint a picture before we jump into these 3 questions that I want you to ask yourself. Let's say you're at home and a family member had just come to visit. Let's say it's a Sunday afternoon, family member just came to visit, and they're driving an hour back to their home upon leaving your house. And it's a bad rainstorm. It's pouring down rain, and you're worried, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, let's say it's your sister. Oh, is my sister going to be okay? Oh, it's pouring outside. It doesn't look good. I hope she's going to be all right. Here's the key though. You have some work to do in that hour. You need to get an hour of work done while your sister is driving home. And the problem is you can't get the work done because you're so rattled worrying about your sister driving. Of course, the sister said before she left, don't worry about me. I'll drive slow. I'll be fine. But you just can't help it. You're worrying. So what do you do in that scenario? How can we help? How can you use strategies and solutions so that you don't worry while she is driving home? And I understand. I mean, it's your sister. Maybe you just have one sister and she means everything to you and you want her to be okay. That doesn't mean you need to worry for an hour the whole time she is driving back to her house. Here are 3 questions that I want to bring up to see if this will help you in this scenario with the sister driving home in a rainstorm, or whatever you thought about in the beginning of this episode that you've worried about recently. The first question, and they're just in random order, but I think this first one is huge, which is ask yourself, can I control this? Can you control this? Take the situation with a family member driving home in a rainstorm. Can you control it? No, I mean, absolutely not. Unless you did something like told her to stay over, or she stays until the rain is gone. You could take that action. But when she leaves and now she's on the highway, there's not much you can do. You just, if you're into prayer or thinking about her, wishing her well, you can do that. But outside of that, there's not much you can do. You could call her, but that actually might distract her more. So that might be a bad thing to do, or text message her. That might be worse. It's probably best to just let her go and just tell her, text me, call me when you get home to make sure you're home okay. So the key is, if you cannot control what you're worrying about, we have to find a way to stop the worrying. Why worry if you have no control over it? That to me is one of the biggest time wasters. And I'm saying it as I've done this myself. I'm sure I did it recently, but it's just a complete waste of time worrying about something that, first off, will most likely not even happen. And then when you're worrying, to me, I think about it like this: you're stopping yourself from adding value to somebody else. That hour of work you were supposed to do when she's driving home from your house, you now cannot do it because you're so stressed thinking about her. So maybe you were supposed to do work to help out a client or to help out a friend, add value to somebody else, and you could no longer do that because you're worrying. So it's taking you away from things you like doing and ways you can help others by just being consumed in this worry. So if you cannot control it, we have to find a way to just boot that out and start training yourself that you cannot allow yourself and your mind to control you and make you worry when you have no control over the situation. If you can control it, then you must take action. And again, you can train your mind, train your body, train your brain to take action if there's something that you can do about whatever the situation is. Again, using this scenario, if your sister's about to drive home, you could tell her, no, you're going to stay here. Let's wait this thing out. If that's taking action, if that's the right thing to do. The key is if you ask yourself, can I control this? If you cannot, boom, boot it out. You can't worry about it. Can I control this? Yes. Now I need to take action. That's the first key. Number two is, I talked about this last podcast episode real quick, which is, will I remember this 5 years from now? I love this mentality. I have no idea where I learned it. I'm sure I got it from somebody. Will I remember this 5 years from now? Think about this. You're walking into a big meeting with a client. You're going to the dentist. You're going to go for a run outside in the cold. You most likely will not remember any of those 5 years from now. You probably have a lot of client meetings. You go to the dentist 1 or 2 times a year. You run outside many times over the course of the year. You probably will not remember this one specific time. So why worry about it? Why worry if you're not even going to remember it? I mean, think about that. You're not even going to remember what happened most likely a year from now, 2 years from now. Why worry about it right in this very moment? And I think what I'm trying to do for myself and for you is to help you get leverage on yourself so you eliminate the worry. If we get enough leverage, like say to ourselves, will I remember this in 5 years? No, I definitely won't. Can I control it? No, I definitely can't. Well, then why am I worrying? Like it starts to become silly in your mind, and then the worry and the anxiety starts to drop. So that's number two. Ask yourself that question. Will I remember this in 5 years? Number three is just sort of an obvious question, but I think it's important to bring up. Ask yourself, does worrying help me make the situation better? Use the example of a client meeting. Does me worrying about the client meeting before and during the meeting make it any better? Probably not. And actually, probably they're going to get a different version of you that is not the real you if you're constantly worrying and you're constantly anxious. So there's no benefit to you to worry. And again, that's just another layer to help you get leverage on yourself to eliminate this worry. We're supposed to enjoy life, right? Like that's the whole point of being here. We're here for a little while and then we move on. We might as well try to enjoy the experience of the 20, 30, 80, 100 years that we're here and have some fun versus using up half that time. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say half that time. A lot of people, I can think of a few in my head that spend a lot of their time worrying, which just means you can't have fun and which means you can't engage in other people because you're worrying all the time. I also think with these 3 questions, there needs to be a strategy that you put in place to help lower your worry. And I am a big fan of these 2, which are meditation being 1 and prayer being 2. I understand if you're not religious, you're not going to go into the prayer side of it. But I also think wishing others well and just using our mind to think about them and wishing them well is a big part of meditation. And that's not necessarily just a religious thing. If you have a friend that's given a presentation and you're not religious, you can always just in your head say, let's say her name is Stacy. Stacy, I'm just wishing you well. I hope you get a great presentation. Just in your mind, to just send that out into the universe. But also meditation has been proven over and over again. One of the significant benefits is that it lowers stress. And I think stress and worry are highly connected. So after listening to this episode, my hope is that you take up a habit that you can use in the face of worry, or you can use daily to help your worry and anxiety go down. I am a huge just meditation. I think anybody can benefit from it. I never thought that 10 minutes a day would affect me as well as it has, meaning lower anxiety, lower worry, higher focus. When I need to bring the focus, it helps. And I also think and this is, studies will show this, it helps come time to go to bed. It helps me fall asleep faster because I can control the focus, which can calm me down, get my breathing nice and slow and controlled, and boom, I'm out cold. And before I know it, it's 5 o'clock in the morning and the alarm's going off. Meditation is massive. So the takeaway, on top of using one of those ideas to implement in your life, is the next time you begin to worry, ask yourself those three questions. Can I control this? Will I remember this in 5 years? And does worrying make the situation better? And stack those questions on top of each other, which gains you the leverage to make it feel silly to worry. And then hopefully you'll move on and just let that situation pass and not worry about it and not waste time, because worrying is a time waster. That's the other thing you could use as leverage. And I'm just spitballing here, but think about the shortness of life. I'm reading a book right now. His name's Seneca. I think he's a Roman or Greek philosopher from just centuries ago. The book is called On the Shortness of Life. And life is, you could argue that it is short compared to the amount of time the earth has been here. We're here and gone in a speck. So do we want to spend that small amount of time worrying? My guess is you probably don't. I know I don't. So let's make a pact here and now in this podcast episode to not worry, boom, or just ask ourselves these three questions and worry less as our day goes on. Because if we worry less, that means we're going to be happy more by default. Hope you got some value out of this. Let's eliminate worry now, as much of it as we can, and live happy, healthy, fun lives where we're smiling and laughing constantly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week.